Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to share the screen with you. And I forgot already which one I'm going to share. So let me just see which one it is. I think it's this one. If not, I'll find another one. Okay. Um, no, it's not. It's not. This is not the one I wanted to share. But okay, but we can look at this one too, because almost everything has interesting things to say at the beginning. So first of all, the word vayikra. Okay, all right, and he, the Lord, called. All right, and by the way, that's how all of the books are called in Hebrew. Every book is the first word, like Breshit is the first word, or Bamidbar. All of those are the first words. So the first word is called Vayikra, that God called, all right? But because, it's a crazy name to have, the only one that comes close to the word, to a word that is similar to the Hebrew is Breshit, which is Genesis, right? Otherwise, if you think about it, Dvarim is Deuteronomy, which is the second book. Vayikra is what? It's Leviticus, having to do with the Levi family, which then leads into the priests. Bamidbar is called Numbers, which is because there's so many numbers in the book. Did I leave anything out? Oh, and Exodus, right? Exodus is Shmot, which is names. So the only one that really comes close to having a similar meaning is Breshit, which is Genesis, which I think is interesting. But basically, that's what, and also the chapters, all of the parashot are the first word. So that's the traditional way of looking at everything. So Leviticus sort of, it's smack in the middle, and maybe it's because if you look at what it says here, because it's part of a long narrative that extends from Exodus chapter 25 to Numbers chapter 10. And that's when we were reading a lot of stuff which we found boring. We didn't get to Numbers yet, but in Exodus 25, that's when things got to be fairly boring. All the descriptions about the Mikdash and the tabernacle, right? And so it's sort of in the middle. And so the fact that this is in the center, but the whole narrative of which only takes up as much as a third of the Torah, covers a very small time period. If you think of Exodus and Numbers, it's 40 years, right? But here, this time frame is only 1 year. So the question is, why is it such an important book? So if you just look at what I have underlined here in yellow, is that the narrative is a stage in Israel's sojourn at Sinai, all right? Interwoven with the theophany. Theophany has to do with God, right? The whole, Mount Sinai, all of the pyrotechnics when God shows himself to the nation, he hides himself. So interwoven with the theophany and the proclamation of the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, the giving of the laws and the covenant ceremony, right? And the 2 tablets and the golden calf, right? So this, this tabernacle narrative is later what's going to happen, and that's going to end up giving us what we have today in the synagogue and the prayers, all right? And the idea of having fixed times to pray and precise ritual, right? All of that is a substitute for the ritual that was in the temple. What? Even if you think about it, wait, should I unmute somebody here?
No, she just muted herself.
Okay. Wait, what was I saying? I forgot. That even if you think about it, the household ritual, right? Well, we have the challah and the wine, right? All of the household rituals are, and the salt, right? The salt, when we salt the chalot, all of these things are outgrowths of the temple ritual. So what who wrote this? Baruch Schwartz, who wrote the introduction to Leviticus in the Jewish Study Bible. So he actually, points out that the heritage of Leviticus is what became the norm, and which ends up in the whole idea of performance of mitzvot, right, which we may not like, but anyway. And also there are in the middle of the book of Leviticus, which we tend to wonder what's it doing there. You have almost a restatement of some of the important ideas, like honoring mother and father, and this is really smack in the middle in chapter 19. Which, so if Vayikra is the middle book, smack in the middle of this middle book is the most famous saying in Vayikra, which is loving your neighbor, right? Loving your neighbor. Okay. So the whole idea of what goes on in the book of Leviticus is that there's some sort of a relationship between God and Israelites, and it enables us to get closer to God. We may not agree with the way, you're getting closer to God during the temple, but even the word, we'll talk about that in a minute, even the word, just stop the sharing, even the word karban, the sacrifice, is from the word karov, right? To get close, right? Let me just get rid of, which one was that? I want to get rid of that one. So I don't have to make the mistake of opening it again. So wait, how do I close it? Let me just close it. Okay. I saved. Yes, I'm saving it. Okay. Okay, so this is the one I want to share with you. Okay, so it's called the Leviticus text. Okay, so let me just do that. I'm going to share the screen again. Share screen. And then after I do that, if anyone has any questions before we look at the first book. Okay, so this is from the book by Milgram, which is the book, and everyone has to study that book very carefully. Unfortunately, I downloaded the book, but unfortunately, it's brown and it's very hard to see. So, let's just give you a sense of the structure here. So, the beginning of the book, and we're going to begin today with the first chapter. It has to do with regulations, which have to do with the three principal types of sacrifices, all right? One is the burnt offering, the other is the grain offering, and the other one is the shlamim, or the, like you say, hello, shalom, not so much peace, but shalom. So the gift of greeting. So these were the first three, right? So the burnt offering, olah, and I know that the word Holocaust has a very, it's usually not used anymore to talk about olah, but that is the translation of the word olah, and always was, right? An olah is a complete offering, right? Offering of a burnt, right? A burnt offering, everything has to be completely burnt except for the hide, right? And that was the burnt offering called an olah. And it consisted of animals and fowl that were slaughtered, sectioned, and placed on the altar, okay? And then the blood was dashed and sprinkled on the altar. And we're going to see this today, the object of this sacrifice was to send the aromatic smoke of the offering heavenward, where God would breathe in the pleasing aroma of his people's gifts. Now, I imagine this is horrifying all of you, and should. By the way, I right now, I put in, it's funny, because I I usually don't roast anything in my toaster oven, but I know I'm not going to have a short break between this class and later. So I already put something in the toaster oven, and I'm smelling the the kebab that I put in there. And so I'm reading this right now. I have the aromatic smoke of my kebab in my toaster oven, which is driving me nuts right now. So I can understand God, who, if we anthropomorphize, I don't know if there's a word, but such as that, and to anthropomorphize.
Morphosize.
Can you say that, Norman?
Anthropomorphize. Anthropomorphize.
Okay, that's what I
I
want.
got them all in.
Okay, good. So if we want to anthropomorphize God, and we want to, so okay, we can understand. We all love the smell of meat burning, but notice it's not meant to be eaten. It has to be completely sacrificed. And by the way, that's the word that was used with Isaac in the Akedah. God said he wanted to offer him as an olah. Okay, so and by the way, even the word olah sounds like Holocaust, whole, all, right? The all, the totality of it. But the word olah means to go up. That's what the word olah means, to go up. Okay, the second one, which we'll discuss next week, assuming that we're meeting, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, in our second class, will be the grain offering, which is called a mincha, right? And it's made from semolina, olive oil, spices, okay? And originally, it wasn't meant to be burnt. It was meant to be presented or shown. But later on, it ended up being part of it was put as dough on the altar as a token, while the rest was baked or fried, right? And most mincha offerings were made of unleavened dough. What does that remind you of, by the way, the mincha?
Matzah.
Matzah, or forget about the unleavened dough for a minute.
Okay.
If you only had put a symbolic fist of dough on the altar. Do any of you make challah?
No.
Well, your daughters make challah, Susan. You're supposed
My granddaughter makes challah now. We moved it down.
What are you supposed to do when you make a challah?
Oh, you take the piece and you throw it in the fire.
Right.
Exactly.
Little piece.
Okay, so that's the grain offering. Okay, all right. The other one. All right. So these are. So now theoretically, even though you're supposed to burn it all, the grain offering and the burnt offering, which I don't understand if you're burning it all. I don't quite understand if it's anything left there or it's not clear. But anyway, only the priest can eat them. But the third type, which is called the sacred gift of greeting, shlamim, was a zevach. Zevach, it means sacred. It was a sacred meal, right? And certain parts were burnt on the altar, but most of it was boiled in pots and then given out to the priests and donors, right? And sometimes they were not considered as sacred as the first two, and they could be eaten outside the sanctuary, right? And then there are two more, and then we'll stop with that. There are two more, which have to do in chapters 4 and 5, which have to do with God's forgiveness. And one is called chatat, from the word sin, the sin offering. And the other one is called asham, from the word guilt. If you remember, what do we do on Yom Kippur? We go ashamnu, right? Ashamnu, chatanu, right? So these two offerings have to do with asking for God's forgiveness. And these are whether we had sins against God, which were unintentional, intentional, committed by individuals, by their families, all right, by the community, all right, and these also, and usually parts of these sacrifices were allocated also to the priests. So the priests, if you notice, can really have a very high cholesterol level, and because they're eating things all the time. And usually if you bring a sacrifice, that's your chance to eat meat as well. I mean, it's not only the priests who eat it. So this is, we'll just stop with this right now. And okay, save. So are there any questions before we actually look at the chapter? Okay, I want to add two more things, which I was thinking about. I took a little while I was waiting for my meat, which had never finished on time, but I thought I would eat it before. I'm preoccupied with meat now, and teaching about sacrifice is really funny. But I took a little rest for about 15 minutes and dozed off. But before I actually dozed off, I was thinking to myself about two books which were really very seminal books to me when I was growing up. One was called Freud's Totem and Taboo. Any of you ever read that? Hear of it? Okay. It was when Mike was a student at the seminary. He had that book in his library, and I borrowed it from him. He said I must read it, and I read it. I was enthralled with it. It's by Sigmund Freud, and here's a little off the little sharing with you. Believe it or not, I was going up to his room in the seminary, and I must have had it in my hand, and someone jostled me, and the book actually fell down in the elevator and went all the way down in the elevator shaft. And we joked about it for years, saying if they ever clean out the elevator shaft, maybe. And it was a marked copy. Both he had marked it, I had marked it, and it was sort of like a little tragedy to lose that book. But he forgave me for losing his book. But it was a really very important book. And the other one, which some of you may have read, is Purity and Danger by Mary Douglas. Did any of you ever read that book? Okay, anyway, as I said, I was thinking about these books before the class. So what do I do when I think about these books? What do you think I do?
You bought them.
What?
You got them? You ordered them?
No,
You
even
Googled them.
better. Well, today I don't Google anymore. What do?
Make
I chat GPT.
AI, ChatGPT.
Right.
Okay, so here we go. Let me see what I found
What was
here.
the name of the first one, Naomi?
I'll show you in a minute.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to share the screen with you, and then we'll have a little time for the and I'll come back to this again, not only today, but I just thought I would share it with you while it's fresh. While it's fresh in GPT's. Oops, no, that's the chat. I don't want the chat. 1 minute. Share. Okay. Share. And I'm looking for Freud and Douglas. Here we go. Okay. So I asked, as you see, them to summarize Totem and Taboo and explain its relevance to the book of Leviticus, and to do the same for Mary Douglas's book. Okay. Excellent question, right? And then these are the books: Freud's Totem and Taboo, 1913, and Mary Douglas's Purity and Danger, 1966. So I first read Totem and Taboo in America when I was a student at the seminary. And Purity and Danger, even though it came out in 66, I read it much later. But this book had such an impact on all the people throughout the world who were studying the book of Leviticus. And so Totem and Taboo, basically, and we'll come back to this, I'm just going to share it with you today. Totem and Taboo talks about the psychological origins of religion, morality, and social order by examining the so-called primitive societies, right, and comparing them to neuroses in modern individuals. And so some of the themes are the horror of incest, which we certainly know we have that in the book of Vayikra. Taboos, right, irrational rules protecting dangerous objects and people and things that are forbidden. So this is less, we don't really see this that much in in Leviticus, the omnipotence of thoughts, but also the return of totemism in childhood, which is the myth of the primal horde, like a dominant father. His sons killed and ate him. This is the Oedipus conflict. So you have here the whole idea of sin and eating and killing and ritual, the whole idea of reenacting, all right? And so he claims that there is a certain relevance to the book of Leviticus. As I said, we'll come back to it. But so specifically, the guilt and atonement, substituting God for father, incest and family, I mentioned already, the purity laws, taboos, right? What you could touch, the whole idea of blood. Can you touch blood? We know that that's a problem for women with all the laws relating to women and or being, in a state of impurity. And again, the meal, the food, the sacrifices, a way to possibly manage guilt, okay? And then Mary Douglas has a slightly different analysis, which is that purity rules express symbolic order, right? And so that you have here things that what she considers to be, this is her thesis, has nothing to do, rules has nothing to do with hygiene, nothing to do with fear. Dirt is matter out of place. In other words, instead of using the word unclean, she uses the word it's out of place, something that is out of order. For instance, if you think about it, there are a lot of boundaries in Judaism, right? In fact, what do we do for the Havdalah service? What do we talk about with the Havdalah service? We talk about, you all sing Debbie Friedman's song, I know, but do you know what you're singing, right? We talk about the difference between Shabbat and the days of the week, between the holy, the profane, between, I don't say this, but between ourselves and the other people, right? Between the everyday and the holy. So this is what we make a big deal out of differences. So if something doesn't fit into the a rational way of thinking, this is what she calls a dirt, something that's out of place. So she doesn't use the word unclean. She says that what we have is we have a desire for order and wholeness. And if there is something which is impure, it disrupts the boundaries. An example might be life, death, male, female, animal, human, inside, outside, sacred and profane, okay? So purity, the idea of purity is to keep together the integrity of the structure, right? And therefore she sees all of the laws of Leviticus as meaningful and not primitive, right? This is the thesis of a book, very important book. You might even want to read it. I remember reading it and I was like wowed by it. And then later on, she actually wrote, I never read it, but later on she actually wrote an entire book called Leviticus as Literature. Maybe I should read it, applying her ideas. And this is what she did. And then, of course, this is not me who put this together, a comparison. We may come back to this, okay? And they asked me if I wanted to write an essay. At that point, I said goodbye. Okay, any questions about this or comments? I hope this is a good introduction to get us into the mood for a book which otherwise seems to us to be like, weird, to say the least. Okay, so having done all of that, now, wait, let's get rid of this so I don't get confused. Okay, I don't need the altar introduction now. Save. Here we go, Leviticus chapter 1. Okay. So now I'm going to share with you the text. I put together only the first one. like I usually do. Okay. So, wait, why is that up there? Is it clear to you? Can you all
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah.
Oh, so, Susan Ferris, would you like to read?
Sure. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, okay, that's good. Adonai called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when any of you presents an offering of cattle to Adonai, you shall choose your offering from the herd or from the flock. If your offering is a burnt offering from the herd, you shall make your offering a male without blemish. You shall bring it to the entrance of the tent of meeting for acceptance in your behalf before Adonai. You shall lay a hand upon the head of the burnt offering, that it may be acceptable in your behalf. Now I lost my place. Oh, okay. An expiation for you. The bull shall be slaughtered before Adonai, and Aaron's sons, the priests, shall offer the blood, dashing the blood against all sides of the altar, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The burnt offering shall be flayed and cut up into sections. The sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire on the altar and lay out wood upon the fire, and Aaron's sons, the priests, shall lay out the sections with the head and the suet on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. Keep going? Okay. Its entrails and legs shall be washed with water, and the priest shall turn the whole into smoke on the altar as a burnt offering, an offering by fire of pleasing odor to Adonai. If your offering for a burnt offering is from the flock of sheep or of goats, you shall make your blessing a male without blemish. Make your offering a male without blemish. It shall be slaughtered before Adonai on the north side of the altar, and Aaron's sons, the priests, shall dash its blood against all sides of the altar. When it has been cut up into sections, the priest shall lay them out with the head and the suet on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. The entrails and the legs shall be washed with water. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The priest shall offer up and turn the whole into smoke on the altar. It is a burnt offering, an offering by fire of pleasing odor to Adonai. If your offering to Adonai is a burnt offering of birds, you shall choose your offering from turtle doves or pigeons. The priest shall bring it to the altar, pinch off its head, and turn it into smoke on the altar, and its blood shall be drained out against the side of the altar. He shall remove its crop with its contents and cast it into the place of the ashes at the east side of the altar. The priest shall tear it open by its wings without severing it and turn it into smoke on the altar upon the wood that is on the fire. It is a burnt offering, an offering by fire of pleasing odor to Adonai.
Okay, thank you for reading it all. I wanted to get a sense,
Yeah, it's like a repetition, yeah.
Right. And it's not only repetition, but keeping in mind all the things I gave you now in the introduction. I hope this now has more meaning to you. I mean, I hope that was the purpose of the introduction. And there are quite a few very interesting things here. If we look at Alter's notes, but before we look at Alter's notes, so what is one of the things that you notice right away? The burnt offering has to be
Without blemish.
Without blemish.
Right.
It has to be perfect.
It has to be perfect. So in other words, you have to, now what does perfect mean, by the way? Obviously, the rabbis are going to go into detail what perfect means, all right? By the way, the word tamim is a very interesting word, right? Sorry, I should have emphasized male, right? Why a male and not a female?
Because they need more of them.
They need more females, exactly.
Right, right.
Okay, so that's clear, all right? Whoops. So first of all, so that's you know, like, but the word Hebrew tamim. Next week we're going to be reading about Noah, And what does it say about Noah? Ish tamim. All right. So is Noah perfect? In other words, the word tamim is an interesting word, and with all sorts of associations, but without blemish somehow or another doesn't sound the same as perfect, right? Okay, but anyway, and you could take it. Notice it does not say here cattle. Okay, it doesn't go into detail. Cattle. We know later on. Is a camel considered to be part of a cattle?
I think so.
It might be, but we know later on that a camel is not a kosher animal. So also, I don't think they would be sacrificing camels. I think that would be too valuable anyway.
They need them, yeah.
So it could be a sheep, it could be a cow, it could be a goat, I guess. What else? Okay.
Well, the sacrifices though also seem to be from animals that they eat. Do they eat camels?
No, well, not later on. They wouldn't be eating camels because they would be kosher.
But also there'd be some burden. They need them.
But I don't think anyone would be eating a camel.
I mean, they needed them to work.
Exactly.
I thought I heard that a camel was not a kosher animal because although it chewed its cud, it had webbing between the toes of its hoof.
Right. Right.
We don't have the laws of kashrut, at this point, but even common sense would tell us that would, not be the case. And it says specifically from herd and flock. So it's possible you could have camels in your herd and your flock, but I don't think that, okay. But what's also interesting is the word vayikra, right? Vayikra, look at what Walter has to say here. One would have expected God to say, and the Lord called to Moses and he spoke to him, all right? But it says here, Vayikra el Moshe, Vayidaber Adonai Elav. He called to Moses, and then Vayidaber, and then God, Vayidaber, spoke God to him, right? And God spoke to him from the Ohel Moed, from the tent. Okay. So what does he say here? Is that he asks a question, right? What's missing here? What's missing here is the word Vayikra Adonai el Moshe, right?
Right.
Okay, I'll do the unthinkable.
Otherwise, it's not sure who's the he and who's the him.
Exactly. So I'll take it out in a minute, but it should be Vayikra Adonai el Moshe. Okay? But it doesn't say that. It says Vayikra el Moshe Vayidaber. Okay? So he's asking the question, is the postponement of the subject a maneuver to isolate and emphasize the act of calling? What do you think? Before we look at the commentators, what do you think? Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
Sounds very much like a literary choice of the author.
Okay, but why?
Not to repeat Yakuk.
Yakuk, by the way, Yakuk, sorry about that.
Was Adonai the subject in the previous paragraph? Because that could say it's just like a continuation.
Yeah, let me
And
just,
the he is assumed based on what was prior.
okay, look at what JPS did here. So you
They put it in there. Yeah, I noticed
put it
that.
in here. Adonai called to Moses and
Yeah.
spoke to him. But that's not what it says.
Not what it says.
So they're missing out on the They're missing out on the problem. Like, this is what translation can do. Translation makes something easier to understand. On the other hand, okay,
It could be wrong.
what could be wrong?
The fact that they assume it's Adonai, it may be maybe
Ah,
Moses' call.
okay, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's really big. Okay, that's very
I
big.
don't think it is wrong, but you know,
Okay,
since it
all
doesn't
right.
say that.
Okay, so
Oh, it does say in Hebrew.
by the way, Norman was joking about the Yakuk here. This I take the Hebrew from the Bar Ilan website because it's easier for me to do that. And they since a lot of people print text, they don't want you printing God's name, right? So that's why they have Yud Hey, Yud K, Yud Kuf Vav Kuf, right? So when he said Yakuk,
Cook.
right? But that's I could really change all of them, but you know, I don't. And normally what I do when I do remember to change it, I simply put a hey and an apostrophe, right? And that would be like Hashem. So Norman, thank you for your joke, but okay. So let's see what the commentators have to say. How are we doing with time? We're fine. Okay. They say the summing, the calling, or summoning is the necessary preceding stage before divine speech. And that's why it needs to be placed in the syntactic foreground. Okay, so what does that mean? Moses! Moses! Moses, okay. And now God speaks to him, okay? God is, where is God? Where is God?
In the sky.
No, he's not. Read what the text says.
He's in the tent of meeting.
He's in the tent of the meeting. He's in the Oel Moed. Yes.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So Moses is wandering around, I don't know what, doing whatever, studying Talmud, or maybe he's going to the bathroom. We don't know what he's doing, but he's floating around someplace. And of course, and what?
I'm just calling Moses.
Oh, you're calling Moses. Okay.
Yes.
And so, and then God wants to speak to him. So Moses, you know, come here, come here, come here. Okay. And Moses goes to him, right? The question is, does he go inside the tent or does he stay outside the tent? Isn't that an interesting question? Yes? Or
Is
not?
he entitled to be in the tent?
We don't know.
Or does he have to stay out of the tent?
Don't know. Don't know. Okay, just an interesting question, right? But maybe Moses is allowed inside the tent. That's the place where he usually hangs out. Does he hang outside the tent or inside the tent? We don't really know. All right. And then he says to him, Vayidaber, and then he spoke to him from the tent. And then he gives the message. Okay, so that's one thing. All right. Okay, the other one is the explanation of the Leviticus. Rashbam, look what he says. He's answering my question. He says that Exodus ends, the book of Exodus ends by reporting Moses being unable to enter the tent of the meeting. Why?
Wow.
Because it was filled with God's glory. And now God has to address Moses from that very place in order to speak to him.
Oh,
So what can we assume now?
that it is God speaking to Moses.
No, what is he going to go inside the tent or not?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, because
No,
God's
I
there,
mean,
he can't
Moses
go
is
there.
not.
Okay.
But he's allowed to see God. He's seen God before.
Look, I don't know. I'm just throwing these things out at you. I don't have an answer to any of this.
I
But
see.
isn't
Okay.
this interesting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what does he say? Speak to the people, right? And tell them Adam. Now notice he says Adam, not Ish, but Adam. And Adam here means both Norman and the rest of us, right? In other words, it's not just a man, but it's Adam. The whole idea of Adam at the beginning of the book of Genesis, which could mean anyone, because it doesn't say Ish, right? So anyone can anyone, any person, right? Right. And now notice the repetition of the word. All of a sudden, we have here in one sentence we have the roots yakriv, karban, takrivo, karbanchem, and even the word bakar, right? Bakar, which means cattle, but also has the same, if you play around with the words, has the same bet, kuf, and resh in it, right? So we have the repetition of that word in Hebrew. You don't see it so much in English, but you see the repetition of that word there. And what is the word to bring? What does it say here? Adam ki yakriv, right? To bring forward, to come close, right? To introduce, to present, right? So the word karban, right, which means offering or sacrifice, is distinctive of the book of Leviticus, right? And so the word karban, lahakriv, is repeated over and over and over again. So I think that's really very interesting. And now, actually, let me just stop sharing here for a minute. Let me just quickly go back to the last book of Exodus. So since we finished it quite a while ago. What am I looking for? Exodus.
While you're on a commercial break, I just have to ask you this. You said you had some food in your toaster oven. Is it still on? I don't want you burning anything.
No, it's off. It's off.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
And it doesn't smell that much anymore. I've already got used to it. So this is the very end, right? This is the end of I think it's the
I mean, but I don't understand why they think the odor of something burnt is pleasing. Because it's.
Are you kidding? Barbecues?
No, not
When
burnt.
it's over, when it goes beyond cooked, it's not to me. I mean, and barbecue is different. Usually has sauces and, and spices.
And it's
I don't
not
know.
burnt.
I keep thinking like burnt toast. It smells awful.
Right.
Okay, but all right, but it also smells, I'm just looking here where it says regardless.
Some people like a little wellness to their meat.
Yes.
Some of us like it medium
Not
rare
me.
or rare.
Yeah,
I
those
throw
are the
it right
people
out.
that like the blood coming out of it.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't see the reference that they have there where he has the at the end. I don't see that reference. Interesting.
You don't see
Okay.
it?
Anyway, but it was a good idea anyway. Okay, and we don't have to. Let me come back to this. I didn't find what I was looking for, so let's forget about that. Okay, so we're back to sharing here. No, so no commercial break. So we'll just finish this up and okay. So what he points out here is once the tabernacle was finished, now we're moving on. Okay, and we have the sacrifices, and so what you basically have here in which you Susan, when you were reading it before, was like ichs, all right? Because basically this is a butchering, right? Where it's like going into a butcher shop and opening the parts and whatever, and that's exactly what you have here. And there's probably blood all over the place. It's especially if it's a big animal. But what's also the other thing, which is a little bit interesting, just again with the language. Am I sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. So here it says, "V'natnu b'nei Aharon haKohen." It says b'nei Aharon, the sons of Aaron, the priest, right? But normally it says b'nei Aharon haKohanim. Normally it says the sons of Aaron, the priests. Okay. And so right here, the sons of Aaron, the priests, and then Aaron's sons, the priests. And so people thinking some of the ancient versions thought that it should be priests, and they actually changed it and because it bothered them. But okay, it's just a curiosity. Okay. The other thing is the please. We just talked about plenty about the pleasing odor to God. And we also had that also in the early days with Noah, right? It's we're going to see that God liked the smell of the burnt offering, and also the assumption that that's why he preferred the first murder. That's why he preferred Hevel's offering over Cain's offering, because he has a preference.
It was cooked.
It was cooked, right? And okay. And again, pleasing odor, and the birds, the description of the birds pitching off its head. It's not exactly the way we would kosher a bird today, right? Today, a bird has to be killed with a very short, you don't twist the.
I noticed when I was reading in the bird section, they don't mention Aaron and his sons at all. They just say just the priest.
Ah, that's interesting. Maybe.
Because they repeated it for both the cattle and the goats and sheep. And
yeah, that's interesting.
It says Aaron's sons, the priests.
Right. No, but
Aaron's
then
sons, comma, the priests.
But then
what about in the bird section?
Right. No, but already here it says the priest. That's interesting. Okay. That is interesting. I don't know. Okay. The comment on 16 is a little abstruse, but I thought it just would be fun to read it because I love when somebody criticizes someone who is really an expert, right? So he's talking about the translation of this word crop, okay?
Yeah.
And he said that the word means chrism, all right? The area around the cloaca opening beneath the bird's tail. That's the tuchus, right? Okay.
Right.
All right. So this is what he writes. There's some question about the meaning of each of these terms. Jacob Milgram, that's the book on Leviticus, makes an elaborate argument that the first term means chrism. Okay. He is the author of a 3-volume, 3,000-page commentary on Leviticus that in its sheer comprehensiveness will remain a central reference for philological and historical issues involved in this book. Consequently, his work will be often referred to here. He's an invaluable guide, but
not infallible.
of course not infallible. Right? In the present remains there, and in the present it says there remains a margin of conjecture in his identification of Murah. And since few readers will understand what a chrism is without recourse to a dictionary, this translation retains the more familiar crop. Isn't this lovely? I just brought this to show you, how everyone has to get there, Okay. Anyway, for whatever that's worth. Okay. So next week I'll go a little bit more background, maybe repeat a little bit more background. But okay, now about next week, let me first of all stop the sharing. 1 minute, stop the sharing. Stop recording. Yes.